Okay, to get to the main menu, you're gonna hit the button on the dial, rotary dial. That'll bring you up to a list of commands. You can go through, you can disable, you can enable, you can check the status of devices. You're not gonna be doing too much of activating. Reports. This is where you would go to look at the history. You'll click the button again, it's an enter button, and you can go down, you can scroll down, you can look at device maintenance, so you can look and see if smoke detectors are dirty, duct detectors, that sort of thing. If you have CO detectors, which you don't have on this building, it'll tell you the life expectancy. They only have 5 years, so it'll let you know that in there. That's what the device maintenance does. The history, that'll let you know, you can look at history on this panel or the network panel up in the maintenance garage. You'll have to go to history with text, enter. This is panel 2, so we want to look at the history on this panel, enter. Display, there's no printer, so you cannot print it. You'll just hit enter on display. And this will go through and give us all of the history up until the last time that the history was reset, which I don't think it's been reset yet. So we just did a disable on the pool in the vestibule. You can see that it was restored. It gives you the time, the date. So this is all real helpful for alarms if you want to know when they went off, if you want to come back and see if it was, maybe it was a certain time that thing went off, and we want to see if there was someone in the vicinity that actually pulled it, or if it was a false alarm. So that's what that can be used for. To get out, it's going to be the same thing. You just hit the enter button. That'll bring you back to the main screen.
What happens if you want to clear the history?
Okay, to clear the history, you'll go ahead into the main menu again. Program, and there's an option, the second one from the bottom is clear history. Enter. You can either do it by all the panels on this network, which would be this panel and the panel up there, or you can do it by specific panel. So if we wanted to just clear the history on this panel, we would enter the panel number and enter, and then it's going to ask you for a level 4 password. That is just 4 4s, and you'll have to use the rotary dialer to turn over to 4, enter, 4, enter, 4, enter, and 4, enter. If you mess that up, just put a random password in and go back to the main screen and redo it. There is no back button. And then that will clear the alarm history for this panel. We can clear the history on all the panels by doing the same thing, except hitting all panels. To restart the panel, you're going to do the same thing. Go into the main menu, program, restart. This is a reset button. This is going to clear the alarms that are in the building. If you have a disable switch on, that it will not clear that. This is just going to reset the devices out in the field in this building. A restart will basically entirely drop power to this thing for a second and restart the whole system, and that will actually take off any disables you had, any enables, or anything that was on the panel is going to be back to normal. It's going to restore back to completely as if it was never touched. So restarting the panel and resetting are a little bit different. Restarting is if you had like we had devices disabled, and instead of going through and individually enabling them, you would just come and restart the panel, and that would bring all those devices back up.
Online.
Yep. So we can show you how to do that. It's just the same thing. Hit an enter button. You can do it all panels or by panel. We'll do all panels. And this just, you hit it and it takes a minute to go. And then that'll restart this panel and that panel up there. So if you just got to be wary with that. If you did have something disabled up there and you we're still working, make sure that gets re-disabled before any other work, before you have a false alarm. Anytime you restart the panel like that, there's a loop controller on this panel and the panel up there. They're going to reconstruct their map on the loop controller. That's what you're going to get every time. It's just saying that it's going out and re-looking at its devices and reconstructing and making sure that everything still matches up with what it's supposed to be. So that's normal. It'll do that every time you restart the panel. Maybe a minute or two and it'll clear up and you'll be back to normal. The main thing you guys always just want to see is just the green AC power light. You don't want to see any other lights. You see any other lights, note that an alarm is going to light up a red light. So when the panel is beeping because it's in trouble, that's not an alarm. That could be a trouble. That light would light, or a supervisory. So you have to, just because this is doing something and it's making a noise, it doesn't necessarily mean it's alarm. It could be a trouble or a supervisory. We can kind of simulate that once this thing clears up.
There's your history.
Yeah, and then the alarm history goes to 0. Everything goes back to normal if we did have anything disabled. So we could go ahead and kind of simulate troubles or on the panel, or I can pull a pull station and kind of simulate that. Simulate how it'll restart. So do you want the building to go off, or do you want me to bypass it?
I mean, we probably don't want the building to go off.
Yeah,
right?
you just bypass.
These are the bypass switches right here. This one will bypass the notification appliances in the garage, and this will bypass the notification appliances in here. Those are just the horn strobes that are gonna let you know that there's a fire. So all you do is hit that. Panel will beep. It'll tell you that the bypass all WC, Welcome Center, is active. So that's saying that all of the horn strobes in this building are disabled. We can go over. Yeah, just use the key and flip it.
Okay.
So open it up, flip the toggle switch.
Okay.
And then just flip down and close it. So he pulled the Welcome Center pool first floor by vestibule. As you can see, there's an alarm. But the first thing you want to do, probably to make it less annoying, is you're going to hit panel silence, and that's going to silence the panel. Now, the horn strobes aren't going off right now because we have the disable on, but if this was not active and the horn strobes were going off, this panel silence is not going to silence the alarms. It's just going to silence the panel from beeping. You would have to come over and hit alarm silence, and that would actually shut the horn strobes down and silence everything. And then you can kind of go and investigate after you've looked at what it is. And once you figure out, hey, someone pulled the pull station, no big deal, it was an accident, or if it was a smoke and it's a false alarm, you can come down and reset. You could do the restart, but this is what the reset is for, to reset devices that are out and alarm. Now, if you reset this and this doesn't clear, say with a smoke detector, you'd have to physically go to that smoke detector and look at it. It would be flashing red, a red LED, if it was still an alarm, and you'd kind of have to fan it out or, clean it out of some sort. Again, don't take devices out while they're in alarm, because it's not gonna get it out of alarm. You're still gonna have to put it in and fan it out. That's the only way around it. So once you're reset and your alarm light goes out, you're now okay to unbypass. If you at any time have an alarm on here and you unbypass this, the horn strobes are going to go off. It's the same setup with the garage. You have this disabled, it's going to do the same thing as it does down here as it does up there. Troubles and supervisories are not going to do anything. They are just going to notify the panel. So only devices that will actually set the alarms off is smoke detectors or pull station or heat detectors.
What is an example of the troubles or the supervisory?
Let's put a trouble. I can go up.
A trouble just means it's gonna.
It's
gonna show or something.
Yeah, we'll pull the battery. This is going to now not be on battery backup, so the panel recognizes that there's no battery backup, and it'll put a trouble on the panel. And this will just show you the difference between a trouble and an alarm.
Until that pop.
Very good.
So, same thing, your panel's beeping, panel silence, it's gonna stop it from making noise, so you're not just listening to that the whole time until you correct the issue. When a light is flashing, that means you have not acknowledged it. You might be able to see it on the screen because there's only one, but if there was 50 troubles, you would only be able to see, 8 or 5 at a time, so you'd have to scroll through. Once you hit the acknowledge button or physically scroll through if there was multiple, that light will go solid and let you know that you've acknowledged all the troubles or supervisories within that group. Troubles and supervisories on this system are going to clear themselves. So if I go ahead and put this fuse back in, there's nothing you have to do. You don't have to reset. It'll just, when it recognizes that the device is back in or that the batteries are there, it'll clear itself. That's the way these troubles work on this panel. Because the way this panel works is, say that detector goes off and we hit alarm silence and panel silence, a new detector goes off, it's going to set the alarms off. So you're still covered in that aspect of if they let one go that they know until we can get someone in to service it, everything else is still going to function the way it needs to.
Right. That's what I meant to say.
Yep. No, that's good. There's not a whole lot more to go through with this panel. It has more capabilities, but it's not very. It's set up to do very basic alarms, you know. So the main things are these 4 buttons are what you guys or people that are going to be in the building are going to be messing with more than anything. And then just kind of reading what the panel says. If there's a service call that needs to be made, just kind of what the panel says is what we need to tell the our dispatcher, so that way we can get a better description of what we're dealing with. That's just where it comes in to say, hey, there's a trouble, not the panel's beeping and it's in alarm. No, the panel's beeping and it's in trouble because we came over and looked at it and saw what the lights say. So just being mindful to what the lights actually say. This panel is pretty smart. It'll tell you what the issue is. It's pretty good in that aspect.
Okay, now, when in a situation, okay, where there's a fire near our air handler, okay, and the detector goes off, does that automatically shut down the air handler so it doesn't throw smoke throughout the building?
No, the way that this building is programmed right now, there is no relays to shut units down. Those would be something that needs to get added to the system in order to do that.
So the air handler up at the Welcome Center and our new unit, air handler, whatever, I believe it's called the crack unit, that also needs to be hooked into something where that shuts that down.
Where
in
it
case
could
there's
shut,
smoke.
exactly, so you're not venting that smoke throughout the rest of the building or wherever it would go. Yes, that's something that could get added to the system and make it more effective in the
Okay.
case of an actual alarm or an actual fire, to make it more safe.
Yeah.